He knows right from wrong. You've heard that before, right? Maybe even said it, but here's the question. Whose version of right or wrong? And if a child or an individual knows it, why do they still do wrong? In today's episode, we unpack one of the biggest traps in behavior management, assuming intent, assuming understanding and confusing knowledge with capability, especially with an individual who's experienced a trauma or has ADHD. Let's talk about perception, safety, and why our job isn't to be a judge, but a guide. If you are caring for someone else, whether paid or unpaid, and no matter how many hours you do it, did you realise that you may be missing out on thousands of pounds of discounts for things that you may use every day? The Able to Care podcast is proud to be sponsored by the UK's #1 carers card. Started by two best friends who recognise that carers deserve better and are 100% committed to helping to change the lives of all carers and bringing them together as a strong community. Carers Card UK provides support, recognition and rewards. It offers reassurance by providing an ID card that helps access emergency information when needed, while also unlocking discounts, a wellbeing hub, a carers circle tool and a community through their app. All of this for less than the price of a box of chocolates a year. There are discounts on gym membership, days out, electrical goods, clothing and even glasses. Let others know you care while taking a little care of yourself with an ID card you can be proud of. Visit carerscarduk.co.uk/promo code/able to care today to order yours. Welcome back to the Able to Care podcast. I'm your host, Andy Baker, and today we're tackling a moment that you've probably experienced where somebody said he's just using his diagnosis as an excuse. He knows better. That was a lie, plain and simple. Let me give you an example of what sparked this episode. So one of my colleagues, my mentees kind of contacted me, letting me know that they'd experienced a challenge where a teacher was describing this particular individual as a liar and that he knows better and he knows or should know the difference between right and wrong. So basically a boy diagnosed with ADHD gets into an argument over a football and the boy says that the ball is brand new. Now, the teacher says that it's not brand new, it was bought a month ago. And then another person said he's lying, he knows he's lying. He knows right from wrong. But that's the thing. Let's explore this a little bit deeper. Maybe to him, the ball is new. It's his, it's prized, it matters. So his version of truth, although it's emotionally charged, may be even emotionally accurate. This isn't about deception, it's about perception. So let's break down some of the assumptions that maybe the staff and teachers were kind of doing in this circumstance. Firstly, right and wrong isn't binary. It's not a case of things are universally. So yes, there are social rules, but also individuals, not every individual experiences morality in the same way as everybody else does, and particularly those who maybe have some neurological differences. So for somebody with ADHD, for instance, time perception could be distorted. Emotional intensity is heightened. A ball from 4 weeks ago still feels brand new because it matters now like it did on day one. It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Now, this lad was being told that he was lying because the ball wasn't brand new. But I guarantee if that teacher bought a new car and it was only a month old, he'd still be saying that that car was brand new. So when we ask ourselves, is this kid lying or is he telling the story from his reality? The second part of it is knowing right from wrong and having the tools to act from it are maybe slightly different things. A child might know that they shouldn't swear, but in a moment of rejection or maybe they hurt themselves, they still do. They might know it's wrong to lash out, but if they become dysregulated, maybe that's just what their body does in that moment. If we think about it as far as, let's say we've got somebody with a neurological difference, we wouldn't punish a child with dyslexia because they spelt a word wrong. So why would we punish anybody else with any neurodivergence when it shows up as a behavior? We have to remember that all behavior is a form of communication. Even behavior is an attempt to meet a need. So even lying. So the question is, why did he lie? Always our objective, as I've said many times, to be a better detective than judge. So What benefit might the lie have served in that moment? What pain was he trying to avoid? What power was he trying to reclaim? Maybe the ball was the one thing he felt control over. Maybe being right gave him dignity. Maybe he didn't want to be embarrassed or dismissed. Maybe he wanted to keep that ball and he was just saying it's a brand new ball to try and add emotional impact to what he was saying. And hey, here's the kicker. We all do this. Adults constantly twist our reality to preserve pride or to spare people's feelings or things like that. Have you ever said, I'm fine when you weren't? So are you a liar? Or were you just trying to protect or didn't feel comfortable to say it in that moment? Have you ever, for instance, told somebody you couldn't afford to go something? And maybe that wasn't quite true. There was money in your bank. You could have afforded it, but you didn't want to sacrifice other things to be able to afford it. So it wasn't that you couldn't afford it. You didn't want to afford it. So are you a liar? So this is a thing we have to understand, that children are going to do the same thing. Now, we wouldn't expect to necessarily be pulled out, called out if we were to tell a fib like that. We might call it a white lie or a low-level lie. But this is a thing, especially for teachers, but for all of us. We should always aim to be a teacher, not a prison guard. And that's not to be derogatory to prison guards, there's some prison guards, but as an analogy, as a metaphor. If a child can't read, we teach. If they can't spell, then we support. If a child can't regulate, then why would we punish? That's just backwards. You don't teach right from wrong by shouting. You don't teach honesty through humiliation. You don't teach behavior by enforcing compliance. We teach through curiosity and compassion. What made you say that? What were you feeling in that moment? What did you hope would happen? That's how we move from reaction to reflection, from shame to growth. Now, the problem is, as you said, this teacher, he knows better. Well, there is a few things that's assuming there. One, we know that an individual's brain isn't fully mature until 25, or average is about 25. Okay, so not fully developed. So maybe they don't know everything and know everything better. Their nervous system is calm. We're assuming that. So somebody who's in a dysregulated state, or what have we said in a moment of arousal or heightened emotions where we didn't really mean it. We didn't mean to say it. It just came out of our mouth. Also, it's also assuming that they've had models of emotional honesty in their life. It may have been okay, or it was okay or safe for them to be honest, but maybe it hasn't been. And if it hasn't been, and it's not safe to be honest, or studies have shown that, for instance, like kids who get smacked don't lie less, they lie better. Because there's a risk of punishment. If they can get better at lying, there's like chances of punishment decrease. So suddenly, if a skill becomes more adaptive and I practice it, I'm going to get better at it. So instead of he knows better, ask, have I taught in a way that can access, that he can access when he's distressed? Does he understand the benefits of telling the truth? Does he understand the need to tell the truth in that moment? Now, again, I would say in the circumstance of related to a ball, picky battles. But so what should we do instead? One, always focus on teaching, not on judging. Frame behavior mistakes as learning opportunities. Always ask what needs to be taught here. I did an interview with somebody the other day, and it's hopefully you'll listen to it on the podcast. There's a guy called Roger Mitchell. And he said something really quite profound about teaching, which was, if you don't understand something, it's not because you've done anything wrong. It's because I haven't found the right way to teach you it yet. And I thought that was one of the most profound things that I've heard in a long time. And that's going to stick with me. That's exactly the same as this circumstance. We also want to make sure we validate emotional truth before correcting factual detail. It sounds like that ball really matters to you. If they're saying it's brand new, there's obviously an emotive element to that. So what's the emotion behind that? It sounds like this is really important to you. It sounds like this is really upsetting you. Let's figure out what the facts are. Let's figure out how we move this forwards. We also always need to recognize that every behavior has a benefit. Why do we feel he said that? What might have helped him to do or feel or act differently? So always explore the benefits. Why did he feel the need to lie? Why didn't he feel he could be honest in that circumstance if it is, or he recognized it as a lie? And for model what regulation looks like. Stay calm. Be curious. Ask questions instead of jumping to conclusions. Now, why this matters. When we default to just saying he's lying, we shut down the most powerful tool we have, empathy. When we assume individuals are using their diagnosis as an excuse, or we ignore the reality that their brain processes the world differently, we don't need perfect individuals or kids. We need understood kids. And we don't need perfect staff. We need reflective ones. So, next time you hear, he knows right from wrong, pause and ask yourself, does he really? Or even if he does, could he access that in the moment if he needed to? I found this interesting, and I did send all this over to the individual who sent me this question as far as how to manage this situation and helping her to teach other teachers the right way of looking at things. If you'd like to find out more, if you would like to have better tools to communicate, to manage behavior, or to support others to better cope and manage behaviors, then please reach out to me. Send us a message, put a comment in, whatever you want, or find us at able-training.co.uk. It's all about raising understanding, because behavior isn't a battle to win, it's a language to translate. So let's teach, not judge, guide, not punish.